of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds and migratory birds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I've traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater-fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our comedian said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, the federal government is closed, but we're still trucking here on the Bill Press Show. February 17th, 2015. I'm Igor Volsky of Think Progress. Sitting in here kind of for Bill Press, joined here by the full press team. Peter Ogburn.
Hi, Igor.
Here in studio, Elisa Murphy.
Hey,
on
Igor.
The board. Hello, Alicia Cruz taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And a special guest here today, Bill Press.
I was going to say, am I here or am I not
here? Well with us in the studio. Bill, welcome to your show. I'm Igor.
Hello, Igor.
Nice here today.
Thank you for inviting me back.
I thought it'd be nice.
This is the earliest we've ever had a guest here on the show.
Well, I thought I'd start a new trend.
Tuesdays with Bill.
We couldn't decide who was going to host this morning, so we just, one thing for sure, I wasn't. So we just decided we'll all come in and fight over the microphone.
Yeah.
I won.
Yeah,
I get to be. I did the most
clearly.
push-ups.
Yeah.
So beat both of you.
Do it.
There you go. Well, Bill, you've been out for the last week.
May I inform you that you are in already serious trouble?
Oh, no.
Unless I missed it. I don't think you noted Cyprian Bolding.
You're going to slip on the way home, Igor.
Cyprian will get
who
you.
makes us look so good on the video cam and has the salt that kept us alive. Oh my goodness! I was just so excited to get to you, Bill. I just left,
I just want you to know, I did that once, and we were black
for a week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was.
Like me. Always been on black. Always been on black.
Oh well, Bill, it is so good to have you here.
And I apologize to everybody for the voice this morning, but at least I have somewhat of a voice this morning.
I'll take half the voice. I'll take half the voice.
It has been unbelievable. The doctor told me, "Oh, you really got a problem with your voice. So here's the deal. I'm going to give you antibiotics." This was a week ago. Antibiotics, lots of water, lots of rest, and don't talk for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I said,
Yeah.
Do you know who you're talking to?
You know what I do for a living?
Do you know what I do for a living? Yeah, right. It's crazy. So I'm violating his orders by half, but best I can do. Anyhow, it's good to see you all. Good to be back.
It takes a village. We've rallied around you, Bill. Igor and I will help you along today.
It's going to be better. This is not going to happen again. I have
is that a guarantee?
I have applied for a voice transplant.
Good.
Yeah, I was thinking about James Earl Jones, but
that would be a good one.
That would be nice.
Or Morgan Freeman.
He's still using it. Or Morgan Freeman. Yeah. Then I decided Brian Williams.
Yeah.
He's not using it.
What is he doing? That's right. Perfect.
He won't be using his forever again.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
So the operation has not yet been scheduled.
Very
I don't know whether anybody's
Keep us updated.
I don't know whether anybody's told Brian.
Oh, man.
Well, we have a full show for you here today. We got 5 inches here in D.C.
Yeah. Depends on where you are. If you're a little south of D.C., you got a little bit more. If you're north, you got a little bit less. But yeah, it's enough snow to cause a stir.
It's enough. But it's also not the only breaking news this morning. We heard last night that a federal judge in Texas has halted Obama's immigration order. This is, of course, the deportation reprieve the president granted in November for 5 million undocumented immigrants. The judge, Andrew S. Hannon, a George W. Bush appointee, said that the 26 states who sued the administration over the order had a credible case, and that would move forward while the immigration immigration order is halted. Now, this week on Wednesday, immigration authorities were supposed to start granting relief to some immigrants. That's now on pause as the administration is appealing the decision. Erica Andiola, who's the co-director of the Dream Action Coalition out in California, was responding to the decision, as all immigration advocates are, and they contend that ultimately, when all is said is done, all the appeals go through, that in fact this Obama program, will go forward.
They're trying to scare off folks so that they don't necessarily apply for this once it comes out. So we're very disappointed at what happened, but we're not giving up. We think we're definitely going to win this at the end.
I mean, and that's really the push here, is to see the question is, how long will this be delayed ultimately? Because this impacts lives directly. If you thought you were going to get reprieve, you could apply for this starting on Wednesday. Now that has been thrown into question. Yeah. So this will make its way through the courts, and I guess we'll see where we end up. But certainly, I think, in a way, a blow to the administration, who have been arguing that the states have no standing. They're not impacted by this. We can throw this lawsuit out.
Yeah, this is caca. First of all, big news. They found a judge in Texas appointed by George Bush to undo an Obama, regulation or executive order. It's crazy. And this guy is known as an active right-wing politician in Texas, this judge.
And a strong opponent of immigration reform.
A strong opponent of immigration reform. I was reading this morning. So he says, the government's failure to secure the border has exacerbated illegal immigration into this country. He's wrong. There are more guards at the border. Fact, guards at the border than ever before. Fewer people coming across than ever before. Last year, more people went south across the border than came north because of Obama's deportation policies. This judge has his head up his butt. I mean, so...
Next thing you know, you're going to have an activist judge in Alabama trying to stop gay marriage.
What?
Something as crazy as that.
Don't believe it.
Right. So, but, I have to say this. This is a better way of attacking this issue than John Boehner's stupid plan to shut down the Department of Homeland Security.
There's no problem with that.
I mean, go through the legal process, fine. You get a crazy judge who rules this way, and then you finally get some sane judges who will correct the record.
Right.
But, I mean, to shut down the funding for the Department of Homeland Security.
This comes on the heels of this effort where the House is refusing to pass any kind of clean bill without these immigration riders, and McConnell doesn't seem to be able to do much anything. So, but listen,
the breaking news of the day.
It's the breaking news of the day. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We want to hear from you, especially about some of the criticism you've heard kind of coming up as candidates, Republicans, are traveling around the country, making their case to conservative voters, trying to position themselves for the 2016 presidential nomination. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who has been, if you ask conservatives, a very successful governor in terms of enacting his agenda, is certainly on top of that list, leading some polls, particularly in Iowa. But some are now questioning his credentials, given the fact that he never graduated college. Walker attended Marquette University, but left before graduating. And so you have some conservatives, some liberals like Howard Dean saying that alone disqualifies him from being president.
So we'll talk about that. But first,
This
Bill, thank you.
Look at Bill. Look at that.
He still got it.
Bill's wearing the producer hat.
I do remember a couple of things.
Yeah, okay. Well, here are a couple of other stories making news. John Podesta is leaving the Obama White House, something that we already knew. But he talked about his biggest failure while he was working at the White House. You want to guess what that was?
Running. He got beaten in the race by Dennis McDonough.
Not that.
Oh.
I read that, but
his biggest failure, as he said, my biggest failure is once again not securing the disclosure of UFO files.
Yes.
He is known for being a big X-Files fan and a big fan of all things extraterrestrial, and he tweeted this out and then put on hashtag the truth is still out there. John Podesta could have told us the truth.
Well, John is moving up to the 10th floor of the Center for American Progress.
Yeah, right.
And will be there with us.
May I remind you that John Podesta is also known for something else very famous.
Yes, indeed.
Which,
Go ahead.
if you go through the archives of the Bill Press show, Peter, you can tell them what people will find.
We had John Podesta in studio several years ago give us his recipe for turducken.
Oh, wow.
He has a recipe for turducken.
Oh. Well, we'll have to give this to listeners in the next hour.
Oh, yeah, we'll dig it up. We'll dig up the audio and share it with you. So, if you are looking for some ketchup and fries, now you might only need one plant. It's called the Ketchup and Fries Plant, created by Supernatural's Grafted Vegetables. That's the name of the company. It is a plant that grows both tomatoes and potatoes.
Oh. It's very efficient.
One plant that grows them both. I am skeptical of what this might taste like, but you can buy it. You can. Or it's going to be on their website in April. Supernatural's Grafted Vegetables. Doesn't that sound tasty? Grafted vegetables?
Listen, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
That's going to become the American plant.
Yeah, right. That's the most American plant. And on Sunday night, NBC had their Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary special, and they pulled in some pretty monster ratings. They guaranteed advertisers that they would pull in 3.8 in the ages of 18 to 49. Executives were hoping for a 5. Research said they'd get a 6. The actual numbers, 7.8 with 23 million viewers on Sunday night.
Wow.
I watched it. It was phenomenal. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I read about it, and it read funny also.
Read funny. That's part of it. That's part of it. It's got to read funny. As one of the people said, Lauren Michaels has his famous line, well, it got a laugh, but did it get the right laugh?
Well, let's go to that. Here's Jerry Seinfeld, who was hosting the festivities, making what I think is the funniest joke of the show.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. You know, there are so many things about Saturday Night Live that people don't know. Like, for example, I just found out that one of the original cast members in 1975 was Brian Williams. I don't know if that's true, but I never heard that. It doesn't sound true.
That's on his own network.
It might not be.
Yeah.
On his own network.
Everybody was making Brian Williams jokes.
Oh, yeah. There was another one earlier in the night, too, that was yeesh.
All right, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. If you have a Brian Williams joke, we'd like to hear it. Or if you want to weigh in on anything we're talking about today, the snow, the immigration order, or this controversy over Scott Walker and whether or not you need a college degree to run for president, I will just submit to the two of you here, because I feel like there's going to be some disagreement.
Wait a minute, do you think you should have a college degree for
I do not think you need to have a college degree to run for president. I think you need to have life experience and experience in your previous job in managing big institutions, big organizations, a familiarity of the issues, which you don't need, to get an econ degree or a history degree for. And I think that's
Wait.
Yeah.
Did you vote for Barack Obama?
I did, yes.
He never had any experience running a big organization.
Well, listen.
Dum.
Listen. I clearly.
What the hell are you doing here anyway, Bill?
Yeah, what do you know? The qualifications are going to vary from person to person. Well, the thing is, you take the candidate in for what they in their fully what they represent. So everyone will not have everything you need, but I think ideally we would agree from this presidency that it helps if you have experience in running bureaucracies and in kind of deciding, and making kind of big decisions, right?
Here's what I'll say. I think I'm not one of these people that think everybody has to have a 4-year college degree, right? I think it's something that we should all aspire to do, but I don't think everybody has to have one to be successful. However, the highest office and the thing that is the peak of achievement in this country is to be president of the United States. No matter how thankless the job can be, as we've seen with Barack Obama. I think it's a good message to send to people to say, you need to get a college degree. And it would make a better argument for a guy like Scott Walker, who, again, I understand that people have to leave college and go do other things. But he's been in the public light for long enough. Go to night school. Go get a degree. Why not?
He's been successful as a governor without ever needing to go to college. What is that degree? What are those courses going to teach him that he hasn't already learned?
I would suggest that maybe a course could have taught him to appreciate the work of public employees in the state and to pay them a decent wage. I would not vote for anybody, Democrat or Republican, who did not have a college degree today. Abraham Lincoln, it was a little different then, right? Millard Fillmore, however you want to mention. But
Harry Truman,
it was different then. But today, there is no excuse. Well, because the opportunities were not there. People really had, they were tougher times, believe it or not, than we're living in today. Scott Walker chose to drop out of college. As Peter pointed out, chose not to go back and get his degree. He wasn't that...
But he sought out other opportunities. He did
not get a college degree. I don't want that man in the White House for a lot of reasons. 100 reasons. But the 101 is no college degree.
And it's yes, he's gone on to other opportunities. Yes, he's been successful in that definition of the word, right? He's governor of a state. But if you drop out of college, that's one thing. If you don't go back and get a degree once you found success, that's a message that's saying, I don't need it. Maybe he didn't need it, but a lot of people do.
It doesn't bother me. Look, I think college is a great thing. I think people should go to college. I think it increases your economic opportunity. But at the end of the day, it's not for everyone. And if you want to take other avenues in life, you should. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7477.
Would you hire anybody at Think Progress who had not gone to college?
We do, and we have, actually. Yeah, 866.
Now I know what's wrong with our website.
Oh my! We're going to take your calls on this. Scott Walker, college? Yes, no, good, bad. Right back here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour, Bill Press Show on this February 17th, 2015. I'm Igor Volsky of Think Progress. Here with Bill Press on our new hashtag Three's Company for the show this morning. We're asking you what you think about not having a college degree and the presidency. Does that preclude you from the highest office in the land? 866-55-PRESS if you want to be part of the conversation. Karen from Hughesville, Pennsylvania joins us now. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hi. I just wanted to talk to you guys and tell you that I think college teaches people how to think critically and analyze things, and that maybe if Scott Walker had gotten his degree, he wouldn't be buying into this right-wing agenda because he would have been taught how to think.
Good point.
I do think that's a good point.
That is a good point.
You hear a lot of different sides of an issue in college, right? You debate the hell out of things. You're exposed to things that you've never seen in college.
I'm thinking about Bill Clinton. Remember the whole Monica Lewinsky thing? The big deal was everybody said, now all kids are going to say, hey, look, the president can get away with this, so can I. It's not exactly the same. Scott Walker, if he's president, doesn't have a degree, kids are going to be saying the same thing. But why should I go to college? Why should I study? He's president of the United States. He dropped out. Bad message. Bad message.
All right, 28 minutes after the hour. We're going to take a break. We'll be back here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press
Well,
Show.
can you be president without a college degree? The question we're asking you here on The Bill Press Show at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377 if you want to be part of the conversation, or tweet us at BP Show, What do you think? Is it a disqualification if you didn't go to college for all 4 years, like Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker? I say no. Peter and Bill here disagree. Peter, though, has comments from listeners. What are people saying?
We are on Twitter at BP Show, If you want to weigh in on this, find us there and let us know how you feel. Stephanie Palmer says, Walker didn't have the self-discipline to finish. This is a very bad omen. NC Nomad says, I have an undergrad and a graduate degree in American history, and I feel that has been invaluable in my understanding of our country. And Kip weighs in, who just says, I agree with Igor on the college degree.
Well, thank you, Kip.
Kip doesn't give any facts to back that up or anything like that. He just says he agrees.
I suggest
all that matters.
Maybe Scott Walker should think about Donald Trump as his running mate.
Sure, right.
Dumb and Dumber.
All right, let's hear from Jim.
Bad message. I come back to the bad message. And think about President Obama's community college program, right? Do you think Scott Walker would support something like that? No way.
How could he?
You could. Oh, I think you could
how
support.
Could you be, how could you be president?
You could say, I will. I mean, we don't know where he is on this issue.
You're right.
Maybe he wish he would have finished college. And he said, I know from personal experience, not given college, it made it more difficult for me in life. That's why everyone should go to college. Now, he won't, because ideologically it's a problem.
Right.
But I also
he's had plenty of opportunities to say that. And also, he has not said, or he clearly doesn't feel he wishes he could have finished college because, as Peter pointed out, he's had 30 years.
He could have gone back. He could have gone back and gotten his degree. This is
how many people have?
Every time that the president, whoever it is, goes up and speaks about education, right? We all aspire to get a college degree, right? That's what that's the goal of our education, the height of our education, right? Go get a college degree. The presidents who talk about these families who's the first generation to go get a college degree. It's a good story.
Yes.
So that message is going to be lost.
Well, but at the same
if you're
time,
Scott Walker, I'm sorry, it will.
But Peter, this president also always says not everyone wants to go to college, needs to go to college. He's expanded vocational training. He's expanded, obviously, community college, first 2 years of college. So there's a lot of options. That's the message that Scott Walker would be sending, and I don't think there's anything
he'd also be sending
wrong
another
with
message.
That. Of what?
You don't have to go to college to be president.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I don't think
it is. I think that's already. I don't think that's fine.
His message is it's okay to drop out.
All right,
no, it's
Jim
not.
from Madison, Wisconsin.
It reminds me of that Chris Rock bit about Marion Barry, right? When he used to say, parents tell their kids, "Don't do crack, you'll never become anything. Don't smoke crack, you'll never become anything. I can be mayor."
No. Oh, no. All right. Jim is calling us from the Scott Walker's home state of Wisconsin. Jim, what do you think about your governor not having a college education, running for president? Do you think he's qualified?
Okay, normally I would agree with you, Igor, on this, but basically he needed to go to college and finish college because of who he is and what he has done. If he hadn't been the guy who came in his first 2 years to take away money from our public education system, and now this year he wants to take $300 million away from our public education system again, from the UW system, and he also wants to build a $200-some-odd million new stadium for the Bucks. Where are his priorities? We have a failing NBA team that he wants to support so they don't leave the state, but he doesn't want to fund our education, and it's because he has no respect for education. So him and Paul Ryan can go and take some vouchers and go back to school and learn something from someone like Obama who has a law degree.
Or learn something from any professor in community college. I mean, yeah.
Well, but I think the reason why Scott Walker is cutting college in Wisconsin, funding for colleges in Wisconsin, has nothing to do with him not going to college. He has certain ideological goals he's trying to accomplish, certain messages he's trying to send in terms of using dollars efficiently, with using those public funds efficiently.
Igor,
that's what it's about.
From the beginning, his governorship has been anti-teacher, anti-education. Now, how can you say that's not linked to the fact that he doesn't give a damn about his
because
getting
his
a college
agenda
education?
Unique. Jim mentioned Paul Ryan, someone who went to college. He has the same agenda as Scott Walker. Many Republican governors have this agenda.
But we're not talking about Paul Ryan. We're talking about Scott Walker. Do we want this guy as president? And will the fact that he didn't go to college make any difference? I think Jim makes an excellent point. We can see it does make a difference in what are his priorities. If he'd stayed in college, gotten a college degree, maybe, what was it, Karen said? He would have learned to think this through a little better and understand education is important. You don't start your governorship by cutting education, public education. He has.
No, I don't think you do, but I also don't think we know that the reason he's doing that is because he didn't finish college.
So you're going to trust him to be president?
Well, no, I'm not going to trust him to be president, but for other reasons, not because he didn't go to college. Carol from Albuquerque, West Virginia.
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Oh, Carol, I'm so sorry. Welcome to the Bill Press Show.
Hi, I'm just wondering, Sarah Palin, it took her 5 colleges to get through college, and she does have a degree.
Yeah, Bill.
And, I mean, no, but my thing is, how stupid is Scott Walker that he can't even get a degree?
Oh, wow.
Oh, burn! It's going so well. It was going so well between us. And then just a left turn there. Well, listen, I don't know what Scott Walker went to do, why he dropped out of school. There's some speculation here on Twitter that he had some troubles at his college and he was asked to leave. But look, I also think it's inspiring that someone who didn't finish college made it as far as Scott Walker did in terms of being governor of a state, in terms of being a successful governor, and somebody who people are considering a real presidential possibility.
Can we stop calling him a successful governor? He's a freaking disaster as governor. Look at the budget. Look at the economy of Wisconsin. Look at the state of public pensions in Wisconsin. I mean, look across the board.
Well, I should clarify. I'm using the word successful in the sense that
got reelected.
He has a conservative mandate. He's a very conservative governor, and he's implementing the policies he's always run on. And that kind of record, paved the way for him to launch this presidential bid.
Here's what I was supposed to say. If Sarah Palin could do it, why couldn't you?
Put that on a bumper sticker.
But at the same token, do you think if Scott Walker were to go out today and enroll into University of Phoenix online, would that suffice?
You know what? I mean, I know that's a joke, but it would also send a message that college is important, and no matter what position you're in life, if you don't have a college degree, it's worth looking at. It's worth going back and getting.
I just think that as president, no, because I think as president, you deal with a whole host of issues, Peter, that you don't personally experience, right? No president can be born in another country and experience the difficulty of immigrating to the United States, yet that president will make immigration policy that will impact millions of people without any knowledge of what immigrants have to go through.
Why not go back to college now?
Because he doesn't need to. He's been successful without a college degree.
He personally doesn't need to.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't need to. He doesn't want to, clearly, and he shouldn't be pushed into it. He chose a different road.
If he wants to be president, he'd be leading everybody. So why not send the message that, look, even if you make it to be governor of Wisconsin, getting a college degree is important.
Plus, I just want to say, college is more than about you need it.
Right.
It's just a good thing to do for a full-rounded person to be able to think clearly, to have the information you need to do anything in life. Why do people who are 60 or 70 who weren't able to get a high school diploma or a college diploma go back to community college and get their degree? It's not because they need to. They know it's important.
All right, Ed from Chicago, Illinois. Ed, welcome to the show.
Hi, I think that it's a little bit insane that you would start to require people to have a college degree just to run for president.
Thanks, Ed.
It's almost another form of suppression that, people who don't have the opportunity, and I'm saying there are people who don't have the opportunity these days to go to college for whatever reasons, maybe family or life, but they work hard and they move up in their community and they get elected to, civic jobs and things of that nature. Why hold it over somebody's head that just because you don't have a college degree, you can't even run for president? It sounds like you're just trying to suppress it's another elitist attitude.
Yeah, the elitism in this room is suffocating. Yeah, Bill, what do you say?
First of all, I do not put public education, K through 12, and all the way up to everybody, have every single American having the opportunity to have a college degree as elite. That is not elite. That is called democracy. That's called the United States of America. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of that tradition. That is our tradition. And I just want to point out, Scott Walker is not one of those people who did not have the opportunity. He's had every freaking opportunity in his life. He was in college. He was a senior. He dropped out and he didn't go back. Stop feeling sorry for him.
Well, 68% of Americans don't have a college degree. And I think that's Ed's point, that a president of the people reflects his or her country, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Boy.
Yeah.
Then we'll be a nation of dimwits forever.
All right, 866.
Let's go backwards, people.
55 Press is our number. Arthur Delaney, politics reporter for Huffington Post, will be joining us when we come back. You're listening to The Bill Press Show. I'm Igor Volsky. We'll be right back.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show coming to you from snow-covered Washington, D.C. The federal government is closed, but we're still open. And of course, if it's Tuesday morning, it's Arthur Delaney, politics reporter for Huffington Post. Mr. Delaney, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And we,
it's a two for Tuesday. We have Igor and Arthur at the same time.
And Bill.
We've also
here.
got this guy, Bill Press.
Some guy named Bill Press came in. We thought we'd let him in.
That's why we wouldn't let Arthur come in. There's no
room.
empty chairs.
He'd have to stand.
Right. That's a good point.
Wait. Bill is there, but Igor
is in charge. I don't know what happened.
You don't want to go down this path.
I mean, there was a push-up contest. Next thing I know, I won, and here I am. So.
Arthur, I've been taken hostage. Come help me. Rescue me, Arthur.
Well, listen, we've been spending the morning here trying to find an answer to the pressing question of, do you need a college degree to be president of the United States? Now, you'll be happy to know that I don't think you do, that you can form certain life experiences that get you ready for the nation's highest job. Bill and Peter disagree. All of the callers agree with me.
No.
So I wanted to get your sense. What do you make of this kind of controversy about Scott Walker not finishing college? Do you think that's a requirement for the presidency?
George Washington didn't have a college degree.
Yeah, and neither did Abraham Lincoln or Harry
He didn't
Truman.
have indoor plumbing either.
So it's obviously not a requirement. So I don't even understand how this can be. This is a fake controversy.
Yeah, you sound like a man of the people. Because the people, 68% of Americans don't have a college degree. Most Americans don't think you need a college degree to be president. Bill here says if you don't have a college degree, you don't appreciate education and you're going to cut all of it out, and that you send a message to American students that college isn't important. And I say, yes, for some people, college isn't important. There are certain other life experiences you have that can get you ready to be president, and there's nothing wrong with not going to college.
Do you remember when, during the Republican primary in 2012, Rick Santorum was talking about how President Obama insisted that college was such a good thing because people with college degrees have lower unemployment rates. And Rick Santorum said, "What a snob!"
What a snob! Call it, yeah.
And it was just awesome for Rick Santorum. It was good politics. So I think being a snob is bad politics.
Yeah, that's right. And Rick Santorum went to college, and look what happened.
And now he's the president of the United States. So I think all this does is help Scott Walker look cool, and the people saying he shouldn't be president because he lacks a degree look uncool.
Yeah, all these left-wing elitists like Bill Press and Peter Ogburn attacking him makes him look exactly like the man of the people that he is.
Crazy, right? I think that the leader of the free world should be able to tell kids, go to college, it's a good idea.
Yeah,
what a crazy idea. What a radical idea.
I want a president of the United States who's going to say, drop out like me.
Yeah.
Be a dropout like me. Yeah. Yeah, why finish high school?
Listen, Arthur,
I don't think the fact that he went really, that he didn't finish college is like affirming to college dropouts. I just don't feel like the message comes across that way. Do people smoke pot because Barack Obama
What is the
was
message?
in the Choom gang? No.
I mean, what is the message? And also, this is a governor who has done nothing but cut education from the first day he became governor of Wisconsin, starting with his war on the teachers. So, I mean, clearly, education is not a top priority for him.
Well, listen, Arthur, you've been covering Walker, including some of his more questionable policies outside of just the education sphere, because Wisconsin is one of the states that has been drug testing welfare applicants. And they discovered earlier this week that out of the 16,000 welfare applicants, only 37 failed a drug test. And it speaks to Walker's policy, to what 12 other states are now considering. When do you think folks will kind of realize that drug testing ultimately is a waste of money and isn't a better way to use state dollars, which is, of course, what the proponents argue?
Well, welfare drug testing is going to have a little moment now, thanks to Scott Walker. They haven't started doing this in Wisconsin yet, but he is proposing it for all manner of safety net program, unemployment insurance, Medicaid, food stamps. It's not clear, how successful he'll be getting this drug testing enacted into law there, but he is the first sort of national presidential contender type person to make a fuss about drug testing. I mean, Republicans at the national level have been doing it for the past few years, but in Congress, they tend to let the backbenchers be the ones who throw bombs about it, while leaders like John Boehner prefer not to mention it. Now, Scott Walker has potentially got a much bigger profile, and he could make this a real national conversation. But it is always happening in the states. 12 states considering it already this year. 12 states enacted drug testing
and all
since 2011, and it never. No one is on drugs.
And all because he doesn't have a college degree. Unbelievable. Arthur Delaney, politics reporter for the Huffington Post. Thank you for joining us. Bill Press Show. We'll be back after this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
57 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show on the snowy Tuesday morning. I'm Igor Volsky in for Bill Press, in with Bill and Peter. Three's company, three's a crowd here in the studio.
Say hello, Bill.
Hi.
Say something, Bill.
Bill's here because his voice is not 100%, so we've got him in the guest chair while you lead the show. By the way, I know you guys know this. Over the weekend was Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Michelle Obama sent a little tweet out to Barack over the weekend. She sent out a tweet that said, quote, "Love is all you need. Happy Valentine's Day, Barack." And then she signed it M.O., so you know she wrote it herself.
Aww.
Had a little picture of her and the president hugging.
Because she was skiing.
That's right.
And
Aww.
he in Aspen.
That's right.
And he was in Palm Springs playing golf with his buddies from Hawaii.
How romantic.
How romantic. Right.
Oh, boy. All right, hour two of the Bill Press Show, straight ahead. I'm Igor Volsky. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's going to hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100. And I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's cold, it's snowy, but The Bill Press Show is still here this Tuesday morning, trucking along in hour 2. I'm Igor Volsky of Think Progress, joined here with my guest, Bill Press.
Hello, Igor.
Why, hello,
Good morning,
Bill.
everybody.
Peter Ogburn, executive producer. Lisa Murphy's running the board. Alicia Cruz is taking your phone calls. And Cyprian Bolding is running our cameras, making all of us, especially me, look so good.
You look good, sure.
Thank you. You can also listen to us here on the iHeart app, on the TuneIn app, using the Progressive Voices channel. And, of course, on Twitter, we're at BP Show, @BP Show, if you want to be part of the conversation. Or just tweet me at Igor Volsky. I'm Twitter verified, so you know the tweets are just that much better.
So here's a deal, by the way, for those of you wondering. So Bill had to be out last week because, as we know, he was in a helicopter in Iraq, and it was shot at by RPG fire.
Yeah.
And he had a hard landing. Luckily, we got him back, but
Brian Williams rescued me.
Brian Williams rescued you.
He came in with the Navy SEALs and rescued me.
You can hear in Bill's voice that you don't have a 100% of your
Not 100%, yeah.
but enough that we drag you in here.
Right. I mentioned the doctor told me it was the perfect cure, right? Just don't talk for 2 weeks.
That's all it takes.
That's it.
Yeah.
I looked at him, I said,
Easy breezy.
Do you know who I am?
This being
Diva
DC,
moment.
that's not the first time he's heard that. But
He looked at you and said,
Right.
no.
But I did say, okay, what if I were an opera singer and I came in here and I need to perform tonight? He said, steroids, dude.
Ah.
So you're juicing?
That's what they
Ooh.
No, but that's what they do. They give him a shot of steroids.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Well, if it comes to that, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I'm ready for the steroid shot. Another couple of days of this.
This man is dedicated.
Well, he hiked through the snow here this morning to get into the studio. We have about 6 inches, I think, here in D.C. The government is closed. Of course, it's nothing compared to what's going on in Boston. They got 16 more inches. That's 7.5 feet since January 23rd. And Marty Walsh, the Boston mayor, is saying, we've had enough of it.
We have Arctic temperatures and bitter wind chill today. It's going to be extremely cold out there and tonight.
It's brutal in Boston.
Can't even imagine.
No, I can't.
Where are they putting the snow? What are they doing with the snow? My goodness.
Did you see? They have taken over at least 5 parking lots, and they've made them, just taken them over, and they are the snow dumps. So the trucks pull in there, and then they have piles of snow that are 5 feet high.
Good grief.
Of course, can you imagine if it all melts at once, what happens there?
That's what they're worried about.
That's the big concern.
They're real worried about that.
But people in Boston, though, I lived in Boston for 2 years, they surprisingly have a good attitude about this.
I'm just laughing at it, and I'm looking at the silver or the positive side at it, that I'm living in a time that I'm seeing a weather event that's probably not going to happen for another 50 years.
Hilarious, the snow.
We hope it doesn't
I got
happen
to
for
tell you,
another
this
50 years.
Mayor Marty Walsh,
Yeah. He's on the job, it seems like.
thumbs
Getting
up.
it
I think
done.
he's very impressed with his
Marty Walsh.
Marty.
And this is all he has dealt with for the last month.
Who knew he was going to run for mayor? He's going to be chief snow cleaner.
Yeah, right?
Who would have thought? Yeah.
Does he have a college degree for that?
We'll find
chief
out.
snow cleaner?
We'll find out. 866-55-PRES. We're going to get back into this college degree question. Do you need a college degree to be president of the United States? We want to hear from you, but first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Poor Lance Armstrong, right? Don't you feel bad for Lance Armstrong? Turns out over the weekend, a jury, an arbitration panel in Texas, ruled that since he lied under oath, he perjured himself, therefore putting into jeopardy the relationship that he had with a promotions company. Now, follow me on this. There's a company called SCA Promotions. And if Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France and all of the appearances that he had afterwards, then they made money off of this, right? Because this is the Tour de France winner. He's the peak of cycling, right? But because he was using drugs and because he lied about it, Lance Armstrong now has to pay back all of the bonuses that he made to this promotions company, which adds up to $10 million. $10 million he now has to pay back. Not only because he juiced, speaking of steroids, Bill, but because he lied about it under oath. So,
but at least he went to college.
But at least he went to college. There you go.
If I got that shot, could I ride like that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, go for it, man. New York City ended a record-breaking streak of no murders. They went 12 days without a single murder in all of New York City. Unfortunately, sadly, that ended over the weekend, just shy of 2 weeks. It's the longest stretch without a homicide in the city since the early 1990s.
Wow.
As I mentioned, sadly, Eric Roman was shot outside of his home in Queens over the weekend and died of his wounds.
That is amazing. Given everything that's going on in that city between the police and the mayor, the fact that you don't have any kind... the 12 days, remarkable.
12 days, yeah. And boy, oh boy, this woman by the name of Aliona Russo went to a restaurant called Villaggio on the Park, also in New York City, where she got a branzino, a fish.
Okay.
A whole branzino, cost her $42. She took a big bite of the branzino, and she hooked herself. They had caught the fish, and the hook had gotten lodged inside of the fish. So as she was eating it, she hooked herself on the hook.
What?
She is obviously freaked out about this. She says she doesn't eat fish anymore, and she is obviously suing the restaurant for trauma and
I will
medical
not
bills
eat fish anymore either, and also sue the restaurant for trauma.
Yeah, watch out for those whole fish, man.
Oh my God!
Now, what you know what the fish feels like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go.
All right, 866-55-PRESS if you want to be part of the conversation, 866-557-7377. We've got a lot of reaction this morning about this big disagreement we're all having about whether or not you need a college degree to go to college, to be president, rather. I don't think you do, because you have a lot of other life experiences that you can draw from as you're making big decisions for the country. And as president, you're dealing with a lot of different issues that you don't have direct experiences with. So not finishing college, I don't think, will necessarily affect how you, your education policies, some of the other big questions you have to face. 866-55-PRESS is the number. If you agree, if you disagree with us, I know I'm facing a lot of opposition here in the studio from people who believe, look, college develops critical thinking. It exposes you to other viewpoints. And if you don't have those experiences in those early formative years, that really what stunts your intellectual ability to be able to engage with others on that level.
There are a lot of reasons why you're wrong, but let me just ask you this.
I have a point. We have to set also, we're talking about Scott Walker.
Yes, we're talking about Scott Walker, who went to Marquette University, left early, never finished, and has not yet gone back to get his degree.
So he wants to be president. He's going to run for president. He's going to run without a college degree. How do you think this story would have been reported if, when President Obama ran for office, he didn't have a college degree?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You're asking, are there other biases that the media would have had?
Yeah.
Yes, I think they would have had other biases, but I don't think the fact that it would have been reported differently necessarily undermines the case that if Obama didn't have a degree, I wouldn't think that's problematic either.
All right, Bill, would you have voted for Barack Obama if he didn't have a college degree?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
I would not vote for anybody, Republican or Democrat, for president of the United States who did not have a college degree, number one. Number two, I would not vote for Scott Walker for anything for 101 different reasons, right? But one of them is certainly, not number one, one of them is certainly the fact he doesn't have a college degree. He had an opportunity to get it. He was enrolled. He was not a hardship case. This is not a, kid who had to quit because his mother had polio or something and he had to take care of her. He chose to drop out of college. Sets a bad example. And then he chose not to go back and get his degree. And then he's done nothing but cut education since he's been governor of California.
Well, of Wisconsin.
Bingo, out.
I feel
Wisconsin.
like the big question you have to answer, and Peter, you have to answer, is what is it about a college degree, a bachelor's degree that we're discussing, that prepares you to be president, the highest office in the land, the most powerful man in the world?
It doesn't. I mean, that's the wrong question. What is it? What is the value of a college education? The value of a college education is, you develop just critical thinking ability across a whole range of subjects that I think is important to anybody, no matter what field of endeavor they go into, and particularly to have that opportunity today for every single American, and not to have a president whose message is college isn't important. You can drop out and be like me. After all, I'm president.
I think, to me, the biggest thing that sticks out is the critical thinking part. I think that there are so many things you learn in college that aren't on a piece of paper and you don't get graded on. And to have that experience is part of the I think it should be part of the American experience. And if you're going to be president of the United States, I think you should have gone through that.
All right, 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-PRESS if you want to be part of the conversation. Pat from Beloit, Wisconsin. Pat, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Igor, I'm going to shoot a shot over your bow first.
Uh-oh.
Okay. If you were having surgery, do you want the surgeon that didn't finish his degree?
No. I want the surgeon who went to medical school. Got A's.
The second thing is an example of why we're falling behind in Wisconsin is because between 9,000 and 10,000 educated people in this state, young people, are leaving every year, and they've been leaving for the last 4 or 5 years. There are no jobs here for the educated person, and that shows the fact that we're having a Louisiana Bubba state evolving because of our cutting of the education and the opportunities at our universities, and we already are losing professors who have committed to come to Wisconsin for research, because professors do more than just teach. And Scott Walker told them they should teach one more section of classes in order to make up the cuts he's doing. So this is the mentality of a Scott Walker who will not admit that he does not believe in evolution.
Yeah, no, Pat, I agree with you that his educational policies are problematic for the state, for the country, the message he's sending if he wants to be in a real leadership position, if that's going to be baked into the GOP platform. But I just don't see the connection between those ideas, which a lot of people who went to college on the Republican side are pushing, and him not having gone to college. I don't see how A connects to B. Helen from Ithaca, New York. Helen, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning to Igor and team, and to that interesting, heroic guest you had, some guy named Bill.
Bill. Yeah. Wouldn't leave.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. I'm on Igor's side. I went to an Ivy League school, and I met a lot of dummies there. In fact, we had a president who went to an Ivy League school, and I don't think he was the greatest. I wouldn't call him like an Albert Einstein. I think his name was Bush, went to Yale. And I have friends that went from elementary and high school that went to Marquette, which is a pretty good school. And so I don't know why Walker didn't finish. I mean, do we know exactly why? I don't know why.
He won't say why.
I think, there's some, he left, or there's maybe some problems that he had with the school, and so he left. But Helen, you make a perfect point, and that is 100 senators went to college, 95 or 98% of House members went to college, and look where we are as a country. I mean, these folks went to college, and we're really no better for it as a country.
I mean, just because you went to college doesn't mean you can run for president. But I think that if you want to run for president, you should have gone
If you did not go to college, you are lacking something. There is no doubt about it.
Douglas from Santa Clara, California. Douglas, welcome to the show.
Well, great. First, you said that you can go to college. You don't have to necessarily graduate. I'm in Silicon Valley, and you're saying Bill Gates, Larry Ellis, all these great, Mark Zuckerberg, all these people that are doing fantastic things in life needed that 4-year degree. I have one, but all that critical thinking at Liberty University and these Baptist colleges and these Christian colleges and Mormon colleges, it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And Scott Walker has a million reasons why I would not want him to be governor or president, but the lack of a college degree, come on. Does it have to be from a small college or a big college or an Ivy League college?
Yeah, what do you require? What college do you guys require?
College degree. Well, I just say about Mark Zuckerberg, I admire him immensely. I would not vote for him for president.
No, exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Let him run his company.
Brilliant guy. Innovator.
Totally.
Also has a lot of problems.
Well, just wait until he launches his campaign.
Yeah, right.
Dark horse.
Yeah, right.
All right.
He won't run for president.
After the hour.
He'll buy it.
Quick break. We'll be right back with you here on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Here with Bill Press in studio and Peter Ogburn. We're, of course, discussing the question of, do you need a college degree to be president? Scott Walker doesn't have one, and it's causing people to ask some questions. Steve from Madison, Wisconsin, joins us now. Steve, what do you think?
Yes, I think Scott Walker's lack of a degree has influenced his feeling towards higher education. For example, here in Wisconsin, he's proposing that people with, certain experience in a field be allowed to teach elementary school or secondary school without a teaching degree. And I think there's more to teaching than the subject. You have behavioral issues and things like that. There's stuff he doesn't think of. And also, he's cutting the University of Wisconsin system by $300 million just in one fell swoop. So I think it has influenced, to the detriment of higher education because...
Yeah, but I mean, those policies, though, are they supported by Republicans in the legislature?
Oh, yes. I think they're probably going to be fast-tracked here, like so many of his agendas.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking. We're trying to figure out, is there that connection between not going to college and putting forward these policies? Who knows? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but I'm just pointing to the fact that other Republicans support this for ideological reasons, suggests that at least it's not a direct correlation.
Clearly, not everybody who has a college education is going to support public education and sound education policies. But Scott Walker is one who does not have a college education, who clearly has an anti-education agenda. Do you want him president of the United States? Hell no.
All right. Well, that's that. There we go. No,
we're glad you're here,
word.
Igor.
Thank you, Bill. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
Eye cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Igor Volsky here with Bill Press and Peter Ogburn on this Tuesday, February 17th, 2015. Well, the Republican majority swept into power, promising us a whole host of bills and laws that they're going to get done, accomplished for the nation after the so-called do-nothing Senate was the place, they said, where bills went to die. Well, here we are, a couple of months in, and we have just two laws, one of which is the Clay Hunt Act, a suicide prevention act that has been a big priority for the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. We're joined now by Christopher Neiweem. He's the legislative associate for the group. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Well, before we get into the act, I want to get your take on the news of the day. Everyone, of course, is still buzzing about Brian Williams and his exaggeration about what exactly happened when he was in a helicopter flying over Iraq. He had told this story about being in the copter that was hit and had to land. It later turned out that was not the case after several of the soldiers who were there with him went to the media and said, no, he was in the helicopter behind us. What do you think of this whole kind of brouhaha that has occurred, especially, I guess, a top American anchor trying to take on some of the experience of the American soldier in Iraq?
Sure. So I think that it's possible he made a mistake. I mean, out of all the issues that is still, facing the veteran community, I mean, there are so many, and people can go on. I mean, we could be talking about this for weeks and months, and it could really take oxygen away from some of the issues that I think are much more important. I know Brian Williams has done a lot to support the veteran community. It's possible he just made a mistake. I wasn't there. But, I think we see this with politicians all the time. I mean, a claim is made, it's untrue, or it's off the mark. And I think that it's possible a mistake was made, and at that point, all you can do is own the mistake, and it appears as though that's happening. I guess that's my take on it. There's so many critical issues out there facing the veteran community. The more we stay focused on those and sort of off of the other sort of tertiary things, we're better off. But, it seems like a mistake was made, and, it appears as though he's taken action to correct it. That's sort of my take on it.
Yeah, well, one important issue, Christopher, is certainly suicide prevention. 8,000 veterans commit suicide a year. That's 22 every single day. And on Tuesday, the president signed into law the Clay Hunt Act. It passed the Senate 99-0. Great bipartisan support. Tell us.
Never happens.
Never
That's
happens.
Fantastic.
Tell us about the law. What will it do?
Well, we're very proud to have been part of pushing along to get it done, and yes, having bipartisan support and getting something done in Washington. So the legislation it takes a new approach to addressing this issue. It does several things. First, there's a lot of accountability with it, where instead of the VA evaluating itself, it brings in an outside entity to evaluate what's working and what's not, based on metrics that are helpful, that veterans have put input in. Things like having intake forms have veteran questions with sort of the veteran perspective, where you're more likely to get good feedback, as opposed to just generic forms that veterans are likely not going to open up on and give you information about what they're really struggling with. There's also student loan repayment incentives that other agencies are already using to pay back student loans for psychiatrists that are wrapping up school and want to look at VA as a career to get some good people in there. There's a ton of vacancies over at VA. Some states are better than others, but in some there's as many as 3 and 4 psychiatric vacancies, as well as it extends the eligibility period for combat veterans to get back in the VA. It's currently 5 years, but as we know, some of these problems can show themselves later in a veteran's life, and they might need to get that health care. So this will open up the window for a sort of open enrollment period, if you will, for an extra year. So it does a lot of things to sort of leverage what VA already has. Well, really what it's done is started a national conversation. We're talking about this. We're acknowledging this. It's been an epidemic, and that's why IAVA and our allies in the community and our allies in Congress made this such a priority this year.
Why do you think it's taken so long? I mean, Clay Hunt committed suicide in 2011 at the age of 28. We saw a spike of suicides after the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Why now? Why in 2015? Why not in 2008 or 2009?
Well, I think for a lot of veterans that have struggled with the invisible wounds of war, PTSD, it's taken some time for some of those symptoms to fully show themselves and become revealed. And suicide is a complex issue where a lot of people are struggling. They could be struggling for a long time with multiple issues, whether it's financial, emotional, a change in a relationship, a change in a job. There's so many things that can happen. But one thing that's notable about Clay Hunt, I mean, aside from being combat Marine, Clay was also, for all those that knew him, I didn't know him personally, but he was an advocate too. I mean, he was storming Capitol Hill with IAVA. He was an advocate. He went down with Team Rubicon to do disaster relief. This was a young man that was doing everything right, and really almost like an example for so many others. And he was struggling. So we know that these issues can affect anyone. And he did seek treatment at the VA, and it seemed to be notable treatment. But what happened with him was, when he relocated from Colorado to Texas, he was not able to continue a medication that he needed, and he had to have a duplicative appointment, and it threw off his treatment regime. And so that's the sort of thing that we took into account with the Clay Hunt bill, and something we still need to get done. We wanted in this bill, we're going to keep fighting for it, is a DOD VA formulary where the VA formulary can be broadened to include more medication, so we don't have this where a veteran is on a medication and they have to have a gap in their service. So there's going to be more to be done, but we're encouraged that this did get done.
Hey, Christopher, it's Peter. We're super happy that we've been so close with the IAVA for so long here on the show, and I know that this is something that you all have been working on. And you mentioned the formulary. What else is on the horizon for IAVA?
Well, there's a lot to be done. I think right now IAVA is launching their membership survey and going out there and having all of our members weigh in and tell us what the most pressing thing is. We do know that women veterans is going to be something that's going to be a focus either way, as well as continuing with mental health. So those two in particular, women, veterans, and mental health, will definitely be there. And women are serving in greater numbers, and our military is making up a greater percentage of women serving. We know they're out there in roles, they're in combat, and we want to make sure that services for them are expanded, and we know what the scope of those are. Some VAs have women-centric services, and there's a variety of issues there. I mean, the ratio of male to female doctors could be one, to make sure that we have a diverse workforce to be able to relate to some of the unique healthcare issues that women veterans face, and so that will be a key issue this year is women veteran issues.
Yeah, well, the Clay Hunt Act seems to be just a piece in the national conversation that has helped focus on this idea of suicide prevention, on PTSD. The other big thing, of course, is American Sniper, the surprise hit movie that's nominated for an Oscar and has been doing very well at the box office. Do you think it will help increase focus on PTSD and some of the troubles that veterans are facing?
I absolutely do. It already has. This film has come out, and people have been talking about it ever since. I've seen it. It's a great film. I think that a lot of people have been able to look at this and identify some of the attributes of the Iraq experience. Things like the intensity, the prolonged effect of it through the view. In this case of Navy SEAL sniper Chris Kyle and his experience, and it really sort of tells the story from his perspective, which is important because the veteran perspective. These are the people that are sort of living through this, and certainly our families and supporters as well. But the people you serve with really have that unique perspective. So people are talking about it. It's a national conversation, and there's so many groups like IAV and others that are doing this full time every year. 365 days a year fighting for veteran issues. And so getting more people involved, getting support and broadening the conversation is always helpful, for our agenda, working on better policies for veterans in Washington.
And the VA itself, as an institution, is it doing enough? The fact that you need to have third-party evaluations of the agency, and given all of the controversy we've seen last year about appointments and so on and so forth, does there need to be deeper reform?
Well, I think the best thing that can happen at the VA today, I believe, is happening, and that is a new leader at the top that has the power to make things happen in the short term and the medium term and the long term. I think we're seeing that now. Secretary McDonald has come in there and really turned things upside down as far as the paradigm through which veterans are served. I mean, turning this into a customer service model, going out and doing, over hundreds of site visits, and putting real reforms in place now. Some of these long-term things we'll see over time. I mean, suicide's a complex issue, but, a leader in there that is really hands-on and understands how to deliver a product. I mean, the VA has got great services, and I've used the VA at Hines VA in Chicago when I lived there, and also here in D.C., and, they've got great services and great healthcare professionals, but sometimes it's hit or miss. I mean, veterans will give you a variety of opinions, but, we've got to get this right, and we need to make sure veterans can get good service every time. I think we're seeing what we need to see now, but we want to stand there as a partner with VA leadership and make sure we get mental health right.
All right, well, Christopher Neiweem, Legislative Associate for Iraq and Afghan Veterans of America, thank you so much for joining us. It's an important issue we'll keep following here on the Bill Press Show. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, while you were sleeping, a federal judge in Texas halted President Obama's immigration directive that would have provided relief for some 5 million immigrants. Good morning. I'm Igor Volsky here, filling in for Bill Press. With Bill Press, though, sitting across from me and Peter Ogburn in this Three's a Company show we're doing. This, I think
it's weird for you.
Yeah, oh boy. Can't imagine what you're thinking right now.
I sort of am third on the totem pole, I think, this morning.
Yeah.
Right?
We point to you, and that's when you speak.
and
then this guy. What's your name again?
Can I say something quickly here?
Maybe. What do you think, Peter?
We should take a vote. I say yes.
Okay. Let's take some calls, see what they think.
What's up?
I just want to mention that last night, for the first time since he took over the vacant seat, I watched Lester Holt.
Oh, yeah.
The whole news. Let me tell you something. Brian Williams is not coming back.
Yeah.
I just want to lay that out there.
Yeah. He ain't coming back.
Lester Holt. First of all, I've known Lester for a long time. Worked with him at MSNBC.
Iron Pants.
Iron Pants. He is a phenomenal reporter and anchor, I think. And he's just really grown into the role. He's very comfortable, and it's going to be very hard to dislodge him.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I was taking some heat last week.
Put that out there.
For my love of Lester. I love Lester Holt. I think he's phenomenal. I think he did a great job. And you're right. There is an aspect here of if he's doing well and he manages to
keep up the ratings,
stem some of the ratings damage that they may see out of this Brian Williams thing, they're not going to kick him out to put Brian Williams back in.
I'll say this. I like Lester Holt. I've liked Lester Holt for a long, long time. I think he's a smooth and a great anchor and a very experienced reporter. But if the nightly news is looking to appeal to a younger audience, looking to rebrand itself and try to kind of move into the next decade with some newfound relevance, this might be an opportunity to bring someone in who appeals to a wider demographic than the folks who watch the
network news
today.
is never going to appeal to young people.
You're not wrong, but unless they do something like completely change the format, like they put in a Jon Stewart, right? That's the only way. That literally might be the only person I could see that would
Which
make
means
that different.
it's no longer the news.
Right, exactly.
No, I mean, the news as is, young people are never going to watch it. Networks know that. And they're going to watch Stewart or Colbert or Larry Wilmore or Think Progress, or they get the news other ways now. Young people get the news in little bites, by the way.
I mean, it anchors the networks. NBC Nightly News, ABC World News, CBS World News Night anchors the networks. It gives them a lot of seriousness. It brings in a lot of advertising dollars. But I just think you got to stay relevant in the media landscape. What are you going to do in 10, 15, 20 years when the people who watch your program really aren't around anymore? What are you going to do? Who are you going to reach? And so this is a real opportunity. I like Lester. I think he's great. But the question is, moving forward, is he the best face for the network? And you're right, Peter. Who else do they have outside of maybe luring in Jon Stewart? And that seems highly improbable.
I talked about this some last week. A couple months ago, I started a new project with my now fourth grader, where we watch the news, the nightly news, the network news every night. We jumped around from different network, right? But every stereotype that you've heard about the news being outdated and catering to a very specific elderly audience is 100% true.
Totally.
Gray, my fourth grader, he learned more about elderly diseases than he did about the news, because he would have questions about what this medication that they're talking about, or this or that. That's what they talk about there. So,
but
they could shake it up a little bit, but that's just who watches.
You see, the thing is, if he took one of the pills, one of every pill that's advertised on the network news, he would never grow old.
That's right. That's right.
Perfect.
That's right.
There we go. And neither would the viewers.
I just want to I didn't mean to get too much time. I just want to put in a plug for Lester Holt. He's done a great job.
Go Iron Pants.
Iron Pants.
Okay. 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-PRESS. We'll have more on Lester, on immigration, on your whole news bucket here on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
should I get back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 57 minutes after the hour here on the Bill Press Show. Jeremy Herb, defense reporter for Politico, will join us in the next hour. But first, Peter, tell us what President Obama is up to on this snowy Tuesday.
Well, Igor and Bill, it's a pretty light schedule for the president today amid the... Not like 5 inches of snow we got here.
Well, that's a pretty long driveway, though. I mean,
you know, it's going to take him a long time to shovel that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Put the girls to work.
Well, here's what the president.
It's a family affair.
Here's what the president is up to today. About 10 o'clock this morning, the president and the vice president will receive the presidential daily briefing, and at 3:15 p.m., the president will meet with new Secretary of Defense Ash Carter. There was going to be a press briefing by Secretary Josh Earnest at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time this afternoon. However, that has been canceled.
Canceled.
Right. And the federal government is
closed.
Shut down.
Totally shut down today.
Yes.
Doesn't take much to shut down the federal
It doesn't take. Everything's been shut down around town.
By the way, Congress is out of town anyhow.
Yeah.
For presidents.
Yeah. All the schools are closed. D.C. government's closed. Federal government's closed.
Why are we here?
Good question.
Because we believe, right?
Right. Damn it.
All right, hour 3 of the Bill Press Show coming up. We'll discuss what the president will be talking about with new Secretary of Defense Ash Carter with Jeremy Herb of Politico right after this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
James West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's 2, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please. 2 anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Broadcast broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Good morning. Bill Press Show here. Third hour coming your way from our snow-covered studios here in Capitol Hill. We dug out to be here with you, and we thank you for listening and watching. I'm Igor Volsky from Think Progress, here with Bill Press, Peter Ogburn.
Hey, Igor.
My good friends. Elisa Murphy's on the board.
Hey, good
Alicia
morning.
Cruz is taking your calls. And yes, Cyprian Bolding is making us look oh so good on the video stream. Thank you for being with us. You can hear us on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, and of course find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show and on Twitter at Bill Press Show.
And maybe Peter should explain.
All right, so
why?
What's going on here?
What's going on?
I'm sure you're probably wondering what the hell is going on. That's what I'm wondering.
I'm wondering what's going on too. How did this happen?
As producer of this show,
Yeah.
I'm so clueless.
That makes three of us.
Bill was out last week. Part of the reason is because he had essentially no voice. I talked to him on
no
Wednesday
voice.
and Thursday, and it was bad. You can't host a show when you're a talk show host and you lose your voice.
It's a problem.
You've got a real problem. So it's better today, but it's not 100%. And so, frankly, I didn't trust you to host the show, so I called Igor. I hope you don't mind.
It's sort of like 25%.
Yeah.
But I refuse to stay away.
Bill, this
Tried
is the
to
thing
keep
about
him
Bill.
out.
This is the thing about Bill. Last week he had no voice, and he was saying, "Oh, I'd really like to be there." And no, you don't have a voice. You can't come in. So now that he has something, we're letting him back into the studio, but we're not going to let him host
easing
the show.
him back in,
Right.
Little by little, baby steps.
Thank you for letting me come to my own show.
My own
today.
show.
Well, Bill, while you were sick, you probably had time to watch this past weekend the 40th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. They had a whole big 3-hour show, 22 million people tuning in and watching.
Unbelievable.
Huge.
The
thing, they had everybody there. Just what was funny to me is they'd pan the audience, or they'd have a sketch that was out in the audience, and in the audience you would see Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg,
Bill Murray.
Bill, but he had a sketch. But these are people who didn't even show up on the show. They were just in the audience. All kinds. Michael Douglas and his wife were there, just sitting there.
It felt like everyone but Bill Press.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, someone else who was there is a Republican heavyweight who's considering a run for the presidency. And here's that exchange with Jerry Seinfeld, who emceed the show.
Next question. Yes, Tina.
Yeah. No, it's Sarah.
Oh,
Sarah
sorry.
Palin.
Sorry. Oh, my God. Of course. Governor Palin, welcome.
Yeah, and I was just curious, Jerry, how much do you think Lauren Michaels would pay me if I were to run in 2016?
Run for president, Sarah? I don't think there's a number too big.
Okay, just hypothetically then, what if I were to choose Donald Trump as my running mate?
Sarah, you're teasing us. That's not nice. I'll see you at the party. Larry, are you going to the party?
No.
Larry David also in the audience.
And this happened after the show, I guess. As she was leaving, she had this weird encounter with some hecklers who were, tried to get their say. Thankfully, TMZ was there to capture this moment.
Get at least like a nice scarf or something.
Hey, we need a job. You can talk to you.
Yeah, you tell him, Sarah. You tell him. I don't do anything. What are you doing?
What are you doing? Can I get a quick message?
Governor Palin, can I get a quick message? Yeah, you tell him, Sarah.
Yeah, get a job.
Of all the insults that Sarah Palin could lob at somebody, get a job?
Yeah.
Probably not the best one for her specifically to throw at someone.
Yeah. You mentioned the snow. I just got to say, I'm really embarrassed because, Carol's, our niece and nephew and his wife and their kids are here from Boston to enjoy Washington during President's Week and to escape the snow of Boston.
Oh, no.
They arrive here, and what do we have? Now, they have had 7.5 feet of snow.
Feet.
Since January 23rd.
We had 5 inches of snow, and Washington is shut down.
They're like, what's going on?
Now, they must think we are a bunch of sissies.
We're
And
not
you know
looking
what?
good. are.
We are.
Well, they brought the snow with them, Bill, so
it's true.
we
So they
blame
deserve it.
we blame
But
them.
it's pretty embarrassing. They're pretty embarrassing, isn't it? You know?
All right, we're going to switch gears here a little bit from the snow and talk about the latest news coming out of Iraq and Egypt and Syria. That is, of course, the ongoing coalition effort to try to contain ISIS and their spread across that region. Jeremy Herb is a defense reporter for Politico, and he joins us now on the phone. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So lots of news over the weekend as we were all preparing for the storm here in D.C., but it looks like Egypt is really stepping up, at least overtly this time, launching strikes into Libya after some 21 Egyptian Christians were beheaded in a brutal video by ISIS. Is this opening a new front now in the war against the group?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. This beheadings took place in Libya, which has not been where we've talked a lot about ISIS and their fight against ISIS. Obviously, we've been fighting ISIS in Iraq and in Syria, and we've had Arab allies with us there, but Egypt has not been one of them. After this video of the Christians being beheaded, within a day, Egypt was launching airstrikes in Libya at the city where ISIS has sort of first taken up movement in Libya. So it is a new front here, and it's unclear what that means for the broader fight. I believe Egypt is now asking for UN support to kind of send in international forces. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where that leads us in the broader fight against ISIS.
But they're also very clear that they're not going to commit any troops to the fight. They're just talking about air power, and as you mentioned, asking European allies, the UN, for a greater coalition like the one we see America is leading. How are European allies responding? I mean, they're in the region. Places like Italy are close and nearby and must fear that this kind of activity will spread to their country. Do you think there's going to be kind of another global effort to try to contain the spread of the group?
Yeah, obviously that is a big fear for Europe, as well as the United States to a lesser extent, that, terrorists who are trained by ISIS will then go back and carry out attacks on the West. But the question, of course, is always come back to this of who is going to supply the ground forces. In Iraq, we do have the Iraqi military to a certain degree that's being able to carry out this fight on the ground. But in Syria, we don't have an army, and in places like Libya, there is no clear ground force that would come in because the situation there is chaotic with dueling kind of factions going for power, not totally unlike Syria. And air power is one thing, but as our military has said over and over again, that you can't defeat ISIS without someone putting boots on the ground. And the question comes back to whose boots are they going to be and who is going to be the one to commit those forces.
And in some sense, it's so demoralizing. You have this coalition effort led by the United States, more than 4,000 air bombs against ISIS in Iraq and Syria, which seems to have at least diminish the central organization in that area. But then the spread occurs through these non-affiliated groups who don't have a central direct connection to ISIS out of Iraq and Syria. They pledge allegiance to ISIS, and so the group kind of seems larger and bigger because there's not one leader, one kind of control center that helps spread the group out throughout the region. I mean, how do you fight such an enemy that kind of pops up with random groups, people who aren't necessarily connected, don't have a single communications network? I mean, this really feels like a new kind of threat that we're facing.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, and it's a problem that has sprung up with Al Qaeda as well that we've been dealing with for years now. Because you think we went into Afghanistan after 9/11, and we drove out the Taliban, Al Qaeda's kind of launching pad, and then we saw Al Qaeda pop up in Yemen with AQAP, and in Libya, and in Mali, and they had all these affiliate groups. And ISIS started out as Al-Qaeda in Iraq, as another affiliate group, and then they sort of broke off and formed their own group, and now has sort of risen up and taken the territory they did. But it's the same issue where, there is no way to stop a group in Libya from saying we are affiliated with ISIS. We could see similar things in Yemen. I think AQAP has sort of expressed, I think it's AQAP, one of the Al-Qaeda affiliates has expressed admiration for the work, I guess you could say, that ISIS has done. And so it's a huge problem because there's no easy way to stop that. There's really no good answer, and it's why this fight is not something that looks like we're going to be able to wind down in months or even probably years.
Hey, Jeremy. My name is Bill Press. I used to hang around here.
I think I've heard of you.
The question I have is, you're right. We've been talking, and you've been in here, and we've talked for months now about ISIS in Syria and in Iraq. I didn't know they were in Libya. I didn't know they had territory in Libya. So now we know they hold parts of Libya, parts of Iraq, parts of Syria. What other countries in the region do they actually control, where they actually control territory?
Well, it's a good question, and it depends on who says that they're affiliated. I think there's a concern for the U.S., in Afghanistan, that we're going to see ISIS groups there, whether it's through ISIS fighters in Iraq and Syria going and trying to kind of corral troops there, or just groups maybe from the Taliban, maybe from other groups deciding that they want to be affiliated with ISIS. So it's certainly an issue, and I don't think that we have a clear answer of where that may pop up. The flip side of that is that if they do start popping up in enough places, does that sort of ball get rolling enough where the U.S. and Arab allies decide that they have to actually take the step up even further and commit troops, commit more air power to really try and defeat ISIS.
Now we have something new in the region we've never seen before. We now have two Arab nations, Jordan and Egypt, who are launching airstrikes against ISIS. So this is a whole new reality, isn't it, of almost, I wouldn't say civil war, but war between Arab peoples at any rate. Or Muslim peoples,
and it's worth noting that both of those countries really stepped up that fight after their own citizens were, were attacked. In Jordan, we had the pilot who was burned alive, and that stepped up Jordan's role in going after ISIS. And obviously now with Egypt, they weren't involved initially in the bombings in Iraq and Syria. And I'm sure there were conversations, but now after, their citizens were attacked in Libya, we see them getting involved. So, I think ISIS it's certainly gaining notoriety, and it's a propaganda tool to show these killings and to carry out these killings of really innocent civilians. But it also runs the risk of they're poking the beast, and at some point, I think we are going to see a larger strike back if that trend continues.
And is that really the solution for these Arab Muslim countries to take the fight to ISIS themselves? And do they have the capability? I mean, you hear a lot of talk about they need American support, they need American training, they need American firearms. I think the Egypt bombing was using, correct me if I'm wrong, American-made weapons.
Yes.
So even though we may not be sending ground troops, you may have, as the president's authorization asks for, American units helping these forces in one way or another. And will that happen? Will we see that kind of response from the Arab world? And will American support be enough? That doesn't include a ground troop presence.
I mean, I think that's ideally the way the U.S. would like this to work, is that we do have the support of Arab nations to offer our trainers, our air power, our military advisors, but the ground troops are coming from those countries. And part of it, too, is kind of that propaganda war, where if it's U.S. forces just coming in and wiping them out and occupying territory, that it won't work in terms of convincing people on the ground that this is legitimate. Whereas if you have these Arab countries being the ones fighting this war with U.S. support, that gives them that military edge, it's easier to convince the public that they don't want to support ISIS.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy, let me just switch topics really quickly and ask about my home country of Ukraine. There is a truce that is very delicate in place now, put together by France and Germany, the so-called Minsk 2.0 agreement. There's been a lot of violation. Both sides blame the other. Where do we stand now?
Yeah, I think we're seeing reports, as you said, of violations, of fighting that is continuing, which is not a good sign that this truce is going to hold. And obviously, this is the second truce now that we've seen brokered between the Russian-backed separatists and Ukraine that hasn't come forward. And I think, we'll see how it bears out. It's still a little early, but I think all the missed deadlines kind of are a sign that we haven't necessarily gotten very far with this truce. So I think you're going to see in Capitol Hill a new push from Congress to provide Ukraine with American weapons in response to the latest violations.
Yeah, it's something our new defense secretary said that he would support. I imagine it's going to be a topic of discussion when he meets with the president this morning. Does it feel like if this thing fails, then Obama really has no choice from a policy perspective other than to provide weapons? I mean, he's tried everything else. What more can he do to turn the situation around?
Yeah, and that was the argument that he made in trying to push Congress to hold off on passing legislation to give Ukraine weapons, is that, we have these talks coming up. European leaders are going to meet with the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, and meet with Ukrainian leaders and broker this agreement, and let's see if diplomacy can work. Well, now we've done that. It looks like it's not going to work. I mean, I'll say we're not quite there yet, but it's certainly going down the road where the agreement that was reached is not going to stop the fighting. And I think at that point, we may see from the White House, and they've already put out some feelers that they are looking at changing this policy if the diplomatic angle didn't work. So I think that is what you're going to see. The next step is do we step up our assistance, and what exactly do we provide them? The downside, of course, is that Russia will then say, that we are provoking everything, and you do risk escalating the fighting by putting, U.S. arms in the middle of it.
All right, Jeremy Herb, defense reporter for Politico. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. It's a hot issue that's changing every minute, and we'll keep our eye on it here on the Bill Press Show. I'm Igor Volsky. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show. I'm Igor Volsky here with the Bill Press gang. We'll be joined by Karen Finney, Senior Fellow with Media Matters, at the top of the half hour. But first, Peter, this news out of West Virginia. The state is in a state of emergency after a massive oil train explosion. Crude oil is now pouring into a river that supplies drinking water to approximately 1,000 people. They're trying to get a handle on it. There's some 14 cars that were involved. And of course, the entire rescue effort is being hampered by snow. 5 to 10 inches they're expecting. So it's a big problem in the region, and not the first time. This weekend, you had another kind of derailment that's contaminating the water, raising a lot of questions about whether or not this is a safe way to transport.
That's an excellent point. That's a very excellent point.
Back with Karen Finney here on the Bill Press Show. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show here coming to you from Washington, D.C. We have snow, but we're still here. I'm Igor Volsky, here with Bill Press and Peter Ogburn.
Yo.
While you were sleeping and digging out this morning, a federal judge in Texas has put Obama's immigration directive that would provide deportation relief for some 5 million undocumented immigrants on ice, saying that it cannot go forward this coming Wednesday. Well, what does this mean for the Republican effort to not pass a spending bill that would fund the Department of Homeland Security unless it undoes those immigration directives? We're going to ask Karen Finney. She's a senior fellow with Media Matters and joins us now on the show. Karen, welcome.
Hi, Igor. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for being with us.
Good to be with you on this snowy day.
Yes. So
hey, Karen.
Hello. How are you, Bill?
There's some guy named Bill here as well.
I was going to say, I think it's his show. Maybe we should at least say hi.
No. Don't tell him that. We've convinced him that he's just a third wheel today.
When I get my voice
Oh,
back.
man.
Oh.
And when you do, just remember who is on your side, Bill. Just remember.
Thank you, Karen.
Wow. Okay. I see how it is.
Okay.
So it looks like the Department of Homeland Security is going to shut down because the Republicans are so stubborn.
They are. Yeah. Who would have thought, right? After Mitch McConnell spent all that energy saying, hey, you elect me, we're going to keep the government functioning. Here he is, can't even figure out how he's going to make it work with John Boehner.
Yeah. I mean, you know, one of the things I think is really important, about this story, not the least of which that it's a ridiculous idea that the Department of Homeland Security, particularly at a time when we are facing all kinds of real threats and challenges to our security, which the Republicans love to bash the president for, and yet they're very seriously considering shutting down the agency partially responsible for that. So go figure on that one. But I think also it does show the thing that, Bill and I talked about this, a lot of us have talked about this, Igor, I know you have too, before the election. When the Republicans are in control, they just cannot govern. And part of the problem is and part of what's happening with this is they can't decide among themselves what to do. It's not even necessarily, an issue with Democrats, but within their caucus, they can't decide what to do.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers and they tell a story. You have 2 bills that became law since Republicans won their majority. Back in 2007, when Democrats took over for the last 2 years of the Bush administration, you had 7 new laws. But what about this ruling? It feels like maybe this could be an out for Republicans to say, hey, look, we were not going to pass a clean funding bill because we want to, undo these immigration orders. But now the judge and the courts are doing it for us, so we can go ahead and keep the Department of Homeland Security functioning. Do you think that's something they're considering?
I'm sure it is, and maybe you were sitting in on a meeting this morning. I'm teasing. No, sure. I mean, I think that's. Fortunately/unfortunately, I think that is potentially one of the things that the ruling could do. Is it could, as you say, give Republicans, particularly in the House, is where they're having such a problem, an out to pursue, a legal strategy. Because heaven knows we've seen them do that plenty of times when things don't seem to go their way. So it could, and what I suppose you could see something whereby, let's say, Speaker Boehner says, okay, we will pursue, support this ruling in Texas and then try to find other ways to bring lawsuits as a way to get those Republicans who are so adamant about this sort of poison pill amendment to the Homeland Security bill to sort of, as you say, kind of separate the two. That's just bad policy. I think as we all would agree, a clean DHS bill should pass, and obviously I think all of us believe, the president was in his purview with the executive order on immigration, but if we have to take a compromise like that, it's at least a step forward.
The other big question that I think Congress will consider as they come back is Obama's war authorization request, which really kind of, I think, slices the baby in half. Nobody's terribly happy about it. Progressives are saying, hey, you got to tighten up the circumstances under which troops can go into Iraq and Syria. And conservatives are saying, why does this expire in 3 years? You got to give the military a lot more room. How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, and also you have, Democrats saying it's too open-ended and Republicans saying it's not specific enough, it's too specific, right? Yeah. So it's, I just want to take a step back and remind people why we're having this conversation in February with, all due respect to those members of Congress who are serious about, have serious concerns that they're trying to work with. We're having this conversation because they were all too afraid to have this conversation when we needed to back in October, November, because nobody had the guts to take a vote before the election, as you may recall.
Yes.
So now we have, and I think you would not see the kind of pontificating and the attacks on the president that we're seeing and hearing as this conversation plays out now, because now everybody's got their chest puffed up and they're, all in sort of attack mode rather than, and I mean that on the conservative side, whereas, back in October, many of these same people were too afraid themselves to actually have to vote and tell the American people what they supported. So I just think it's important that as we're having this conversation, I certainly think, I thought we should have had this vote back in October. I certainly think it's important now, and it's important for, Americans to know what is in the legislation, and I hope whatever version we end up with, that it is made very clear what it is that the president is being authorized to do.
Are you concerned about this argument that because you can kind of send some U.S. military folks into the region to help with certain aspects of the conflict, that as ISIS spreads, that this will escalate and perhaps lead us down a road that we've seen too often recently?
Yeah, look, I certainly think that the president deserves a lot more credit for the success of the airstrikes and for his ability. They're having there's a summit at the White House on Wednesday specifically looking at extremism and terrorism, and so I think some of the things that we've done thus far are correct, but again, I think, Igor, you raised an important point. I think we're not having an honest conversation when we talk about, boots on the ground. Because people talk about, we'll send in some special forces and they'll do this and that and they'll help train and they'll observe. Well, I got to tell you, I actually for a time dated someone who was a special forces officer. He's still in the Army. He did 5 tours between Iraq and Afghanistan and was serving with special forces operators who'd done up to 10 tours. So I want people to understand that what we're talking about is people who have already served in both Iraq and Afghanistan more times than they should have, right? I mean, and dealing with PTSD and their families and all that issue. So when particularly some of the conservatives sort of callously say, well, we'll just send some special forces operators over there, we're talking about people who have served and served and served and served, and the truth of it is, it's not like they're not in harm's way, simply because, they use these terms of, they're advising and they're observing. They're still in harm's way. They're still putting their lives on the line. So I think we need to have a more honest conversation, rather than sort of these polite terms about, well, they're not going to be combat troops, they're going to be these kinds of troops. Okay, but we're still asking people to go into a very dangerous situation, to again leave their, families, to again give up everything, and to again potentially put their lives at risk.
I want to ask Karen, Bill here, if you don't recognize this version of my voice, but so from the very significant issues to the absolutely silly, but on the political front, do you think the fact that Scott Walker does not have a college education could prove to be a problem for him, even in the Republican primary?
Well, certainly while he's trying to make some cuts to college education in his own state, that's not a good thing. Sure, I absolutely do. I mean, look, I don't know that the issue is less, I think, to most voters about whether or not he, completed college. But there's, 2 issues. Number one, are you honest about it? And can you tell the voters an honest story about here's what happened? And because I think it's the kind of thing where politicians too oftentimes kind of like to massage the answer. I think this is one where you just give a very straightforward answer.
Which he hasn't done, right?
Correct.
Why? He's had enough.
Well,
he should be honest. I do agree with that.
Yeah, but I think it's a lot like how we sort of stumbled into vaccine gate, if you will. I don't think that these guys are necessarily the wannabe 2016ers on the Republican side. I don't think they're ready for prime time. I don't think they recognize yet that the level of scrutiny and the questions that they're going to be asked and, the kind of information that is going to come out, whether it's did you go to college, who you did, deals with, where you worked, all of these things, you better have an answer. And you can't just kind of brush it aside. And that's why I say I think the most important thing is he's got to, whatever the answer is, he's got to, tell people and be honest about it, because the worst thing politically, and we've seen this happen time and time again, is, people will kind of give a partial answer and then turns out you find out a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and it's that sort of drip, drip, drip of information that really, whether, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, that can be really deadly.
Yeah, the cover-up is always worse than the crime.
And I feel like I can't believe we're still seeing it in 2015, but I guess people just haven't learned.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Karen Finney, Senior Fellow with Media Matters, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you guys. Bill, feel better.
Thanks, Karen. See ya.
Take care.
All right, the Bill Press Show will continue, close up our third hour. I'm Igor Volsky. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 48 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show coming to you live from our snow-covered studios here on Capitol Hill. We were just discussing Scott Walker, a 2016 GOP contender. But the front runner of the pack, as it stands today, is Jeb Bush, the former Florida governor, the brother of George H.W. Bush, and of course the son of George H.W. Bush. And over the weekend, he was asked what he thinks about his brother's wars. Would he have done anything differently? And he said, quote, "I won't talk about the past."
Yeah, I wouldn't either if my name was Bush.
Now, this is a guy who, spent his entire life using his name and his family connections to get ahead, to build a business career, to build a political career, and he's running for president because he's a Bush. If his name was Fox, he would never have been governor or had the business dealings that he was able to have. And so with those opportunities comes the baggage that you have to deal with. You can't just stow away, push it under the bed, and just think people won't care. And the crazy thing for me is you're going to spend an entire election talking about the past as it relates to Obama's policies, but when it comes to Bush, policy decisions that we're still dealing with to this very day, as far as ISIS is concerned, which was birthed out of the Iraq invasion, you're not even going to talk about it? I don't think, we had Karen Finney on the last segment. She was saying these guys aren't ready for prime time. This is not a prime time answer, and he's going to have a lot of trouble.
That's a very good point. Every Republican is going to have an answer about the wars fought by George W. Bush, right? Because we are at war, and whatever the nominee is going to be, whoever that happens to be, they're going to have to talk about war. Because I doubt that we will be done with what we're doing with ISIS by then. So, yeah, he's going to have a better answer. The fact that his last name is Bush just happens to be a part of this. But you're right. He's absolutely not ready for prime time. You can't just say, oh, I don't want to talk about that.
I would suggest he is, first of all, I think he's going to be the Republican nominee. But he will have to talk about the past. He'll have to talk about his past as governor of Florida and his record. He'll have to talk about his business dealings, his past business dealings, all these millions and millions of dollars he's made working for these big banks since he's been governor. And he's going to have to talk about the Republican Party's record, including his brother's and his father's record, but especially his brother's record. So I don't care what he says.
And, I think it was in 2007.
I mean, seriously.
No, you're right.
Even, the first Republican debate, do you think the Fox News anchors are going to let him off the hook?
No.
Oh, that's right. Your name is Bush. That's right. You don't talk about
No questions about the previous administration.
Those are the rules. I remember back in 2007, Jeb and George gave a rare joint interview. And Jeb proudly said, "I'm the only governor who never criticized this guy," pointing to his brother. "I support all of his policies." Basically. I mean, I'm kind of summarizing and paraphrasing, but that's a clip that's going to come back to haunt him in the Republican primary from people like Rand Paul, of course, but also a lot of the others who see the Bush wars as highly unpopular with the general public, but also with the Republican primary voter.
The real question is, I think, another question: who in this Republican field could stop Jeb Bush? I think it's going to be very, very tough. I mean, first of all, there's not just one field, as we know. I mean, I saw the other day, as somebody pointed out, there are like 4 parallel tracks, right, to 2016. Among the Republicans, there's the establishment track, the Tea Party track, the Libertarian track, and there's another one. Who would be? The religious conservative track. So you got Huckabee and Santorum in that one. You got Rand Paul and the Libertarian. In the Tea Party, it's basically Ted Cruz, and then
maybe Rand Paul to some extent.
Rand likes to dabble into that a little bit, and then the establishment is Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, and then Scott Walker, who also dabbles in the Tea Party thing, right? But
but if I'm a Tea Party...
If you look at all of those people, right, out of all the names we've talked about, I mean, who's going to stop him? Carla Fiorina?
Ben Carson.
Yeah,
Ben Carson.
Talked about the juggernaut.
Right, of course. I don't know. I feel like if I'm a Republican primary voter in Iowa, in South Carolina, I don't know if Jeb Bush, who, yes, is the establishment candidate, is going to raise all this money, is someone who really appeals to me, certainly not on my core issues, if they're education, Common Core, even if they're foreign policy, and this guy smells and looks like George W. Bush, I think it's a real problem for him. With the base, and the base, say what you will about the money, the base has a real vote here.
The only name that I hear that I think could really give him a run for his money is Christie, but we know that Chris Christie has a real problem with Republicans. So,
and I think with a lot of general election voters as well, who are going to look at that record and think,
Well, the only question that really matters is about Jeb Bush. Did he go to college?
All right,
go to break before you get started again.
Question of the day, 54 minutes after the hour. Bill Press Show. We'll be back. Close this out.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. the court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Final minutes here on this Three's Company Bill Press special.
Three's Company. Three's trouble.
Yeah, a lot of trouble.
Right. Three's a crowd.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you for coming in today and helping us out with this arrangements while Bill gets his voice back.
Thank you, Igor.
Bill's going to have a hard time because today is, of course, Mardi Gras.
Oh, no.
So I can't imagine your voice is going to be any better tomorrow after what I'm sure you have planned.
Let the good times roll, baby. Let the good times roll. Yeah.
New Orleans has beefed up their security during Mardi Gras season, which started back at February 6th. They have made, since then, 140 arrests and 300 charges filed since then. So
wow.
Yeah.
What?
Be on your best behavior.
Already?
Yes.
Be on your best behavior.
Oh, man. I got to tell you. Mardi Gras, party on.
Oh, yes. That's what you're going to do, Bill. And
Thank
someone
you.
will host the show tomorrow. I mean, we'll
knows?
see. I don't know. All right, I'm Igor Volsky from Think Progress. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.